Welcome to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I'm here today with my co-host and emissary from Aldebaran, Anthony Marquetta. Anthony, I'm hearing an echo. Is this the echo of the stars themselves coming from your computer? Are
The
we? Are
echo
we?
is I tried to use headphones and they didn't work. Uh, sorry.
Okay. All right.
I'll mute in between talking. How about that?
However you want to do it. So today we're going to be talking about Chainsaw Man and just Shonen Jump in general. Um, Basically, a lot of things have happened since the last time we've had an anime stream, and while the anime season seems to be mostly trash, um, it just does. Uh, I haven't seen a single anime that's come out that I want to see this season.
Here's
Um,
what I'll say. There have been anime that I've wanted to watch, but I have not had time to get to. However, because manga is a lot faster to consume, I've actually been keeping up with manga and some new manga as well. So,
yep.
as with any hobby, things go in fits and jumps. I haven't I'm not. I don't have any plans to abandon anime. I don't think I've grown past it or anything like that. I just haven't had the time to watch it. I saw a few episodes of Spy Family, which is one of my favorite manga. I loved it. It was great.
Yep. I watched
Uh,
that too.
yeah, the anime was great. I haven't finished the anime, but not because I'm not really into it because I haven't had time. That's literally the only reason. But I've been able to keep up with Spy Family, the manga, and it's been awesome. So yeah, that's the position I'm in currently. So discussing manga, I think, makes a little bit more sense at this
Yeah.
point in time. Maybe later when I have some time to catch up on things, it'll be worth talking more about anime.
Well,
I'm
like,
still waiting
mm,
on JoJo Part 9 news.
right. But like looking through the list of anime, just to get this out of the way now, the only anime I'm still looking through it, vaguely interested in, is the second season of Made in Abyss, which I'm just gonna kind of wait for the dub of. I just don't care. A lot of this stuff,
I always thought Made in Abyss was a little bit overrated. I think it's good.
yeah,
It's pretty good, but I never thought it was as great as everybody said it was. And there was some weird pedophilic crap in there that people would try and excuse, but if you actually look into the background of the creator, there is definitely he had some messed up stuff going on, and
yeah.
probably some of it was intentional.
Oh, it's always intentional for that stuff. Though I didn't know anything about his personal history. Um, yeah, I
That
get.
same season had two really good shows: Made in Abyss, which was the most popular, but that also had Ancient Magus Bride, and I always thought that Ancient Magus Bride was better.
He,
Havoc Bringer's here. Hey,
hey, hey. Uh, yeah, Ancient Magus Bride. I liked the manga. I like the. I don't know why they chose the OVA to go first, but whatever.
was
Looking,
that OVA first? It was quite a good OVA. I saw it
I
after
didn't.
the fact.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I preferred the start of the manga and how they did it.
I
Uh,
I mean, to be fair, I watched the OVA after the fact, having no idea that it went first, so I can't
yeah.
judge it as a beginning.
It
Uh,
felt bad. Um, at least how I saw it. Just to go over the anime, because I am looking at a list here. Like, there's some
I
like set.
love the Magus Bride anime. It was one
It
of
was
my
great.
favorites that year.
Uh, there's some things that have coming back, like a whole bunch of second seasons. Devil is a part timer, Rent a Girlfriend, Overlord, Classroom of the Elite, um, Made in Abyss.
Those are
Uh,
particularly great.
well,
Uh,
yeah,
Devil as a part timer, I have always thought was amusing and nothing more.
yeah.
I thought it was an okay show. I laughed when I saw it, and then forgot about most of it. You know, I'm not particularly excited over a season two. The other shows just aren't very good.
Yeah. There's
Overlord's terrible.
right. Like it had one good, like the thing with these isekais is that they usually start with one good idea and then just evolve into the usual biz, except with a flavor. The flavor of the month is he's an evil overlord with a castle and dungeon and everything. The this one is it's the Japanese Defense Force in another world. There's one that's it's my uncle in another world and he's come back. I don't even like that one. I hate that one on principle, and the
The
art is so
majority of
ugly.
it's honestly unbelievable to me, like how bad most isekai is. Like you would think after all this time and all this practice, they would get better at it, but they might be getting worse. Like
Yeah,
they're all terrible. It's amazing.
yep. There's one that's interesting that I do want to see, and that's Shadow's House, season 2. I want to kind of go back and see Shadow House season 1 before I see anything, just because it had some interesting ideas, and it might be my aesthetic. The Ruby anime is out, and I don't understand anything about it, and I think it's just Ruby hurts me. I'm gonna leave that alone. There's one that might be interesting, like to see one episode of it. Is the maid I hired recently is mysterious, and really it's about teasing like an 8-year-old boy who's suspicious of his not white maid. I think
Funny.
that's pretty funny. I have no idea what's going on with
Uh,
that.
yeah, as far as I mean, we've had the isekai stream
Yeah.
already, but like as far as isekai go, I stand by my original assessment. There is not counting Konosuba, which is a parody of isekai, which is
Hmm.
why it's good. Uh, there is one S tier isekai, and that is Log Horizon. Uh, a couple of A tier isekai. I would put what's it called? No Game
Escaflowne.
No. What was that?
No Game No Life, Escaflowne, a few
Yeah,
others.
No Game No Life, Escaflowne, and Saga of Tanya the Evil. Uh,
And 12th
Saga.
Kingdom for me as well.
I haven't seen it, but I could see that. Like, it wouldn't shock me. Like, Escaflowne was in a different era of isekai before it became saturated with all of these terrible modern tropes. And then the rest are just generally, like, really, really bad. Like,
Yeah.
Ascendance of a Bookworm
Yep.
is an okay show. I liked the first season, and then I heard where it went in later seasons, and, like, apparently it goes in a totally nonsensical direction. Uh, which is a little bit disappointing. I never really thought it was a great show, to be honest with you.
Mm.
But, it has like according to there was somebody on the chat. I'm not gonna say who, but they were talking about it and they were describing that like it has a typical Japanese blindness towards religion.
Yep.
Where like apparently that the church, which has always had some kind of shadyish undertones, is actually like a factory for like creating sex slaves from their orphanage, and that's why they don't want people. They didn't want mine working for the church, the main character. Working for the church, and that's also why. And this does not make any sense whatsoever because they still get their children baptized in the church
Yep.
and they still like everybody knows about this. They
Right.
know that they are a sex slave factory. Now, like I get, you can insert your Catholic Church jokes here or whatever, but number one,
Public
when that
school jokes here.
right, yeah. But in all seriousness here, like just from a logical perspective, number one, when it started coming out that there were serious sex abuse problems in the Catholic Church, that was a massive blow to the church's reputation, as it should have been. Like this is not just something that the townspeople just kind of turn a blind eye to.
Right.
It like you don't just continue doing what you're doing and ignore it.
Yep.
And not to mention, like, what the Catholic Church was doing in terms of, its sexual abuse was not systemic in the way that they're describing it in Bookworm.
Yep.
Like, it was not part of the system of the church. It was done, sure, sometimes it was covered up, but that's the thing. It had to be covered up. Because if it were revealed, it was illegal and clearly against the precepts of the religion. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and it's so typically Japanese. It's not quite as dumb as Shield Hero, literally having the queen announce that actually they were wrong and the devil was a good guy. and then everybody just goes along with it, which was objectively hilarious.
I mean,
Uh,
I'm laughing.
what was that?
I'm laughing. Uh,
Yeah, but it's up there. It's pretty stupid.
yeah. Like, there's, like, it's, like, the Catholic Church thing. Like, there has been some studies, and it's pretty bad. But the thing is that what made it bad wasn't that people revolted against it or just accepted it or what. I'm sorry, that people didn't revolt against it or accept it or whatever. There were fights. Like, I know people who were ruined trying to fight it, or rather, their relatives were
Like,
ruined. It's like one of those things
that's the
where,
thing. They were trying to hide it because they knew
yep,
that if they didn't hide it, people wouldn't accept it.
yep,
Like, you don't just know about it and then get your kids baptized and just go, "Oh, don't worry about it.
we're not
Don't
planning
think
on
about it."
turning you into an orphan anytime soon, little Jimmy.
Like,
And it's like they assume that, like, there's a very Asian thing. It's like, well, if it's not my kid, it's not a problem. Well, that's the thing. Eventually it becomes a societal issue. And I'm going to be real, those types of people aren't satisfied with just orphans. Like, we've seen it, how it works in our real world, with the cabal and all that jazz. Like, they go out of their way for it. Um,
no, it's just a
it's
typically
just,
nonsensical view of religion. Like, clearly, this Japanese person, the way they viewed religion was typical of how a lot of moderns think about it. To be fair, but it's also
yeah,
very, very Japanese. They don't really think that anybody believed in it, which is entirely false.
yeah,
Like in the Middle Ages, especially, like religious belief was an extremely real thing, and that includes among the higher ups. Like,
yeah,
even among the emperors and things, when you're looking at, we've done these Reformation streams. If you look at like the people involved in this, even the rulers were considering the religious angle of it at every point. Like
yep.
the Holy Roman Emperor had as a part of his role like protector of the church, and
Yep.
they took that extremely seriously.
And the thing
Like
is, like with,
this was not something that they just kind of, it wasn't just there.
yeah, like with Japan, like, do you think that they would make a shrine on every street if they didn't believe in it at least a little bit? Like, you don't just spend an entire, like, civilization's worth making magnificent temples on like, non-belief. You can't get workers if people don't believe in it. Nobody's willing to spend their lives carving 1,000 little decorations, even if they're paid for it, for something they don't believe in. If it's like, yeah, screw those. Hold on, Anthony, you're echoing again. If they're like, forget these priests, we're just going to do whatever. It's like, that's not how you build a civilization. The art that we're seeing from these isekai types, from these religious types, are made from gammas who don't have any idea how to relate to women. Even if they're married, like, the women are usually a bit crazy themselves. And it's like, you the gag is that, Japan's birth rate falls again. We failed you, Shinzo. Uh, I saw that 4chan thread. That was great. But it's these things, it just kind of falls apart on it. Fortunately, next season, fall 2022, looks really good. Mob Psycho 3, Spy Family 2. Um, what else was there? There
When
was
is Chainsaw Man the anime coming out, actually?
there's no date. Let me look.
Because I thought it would have come out by now, actually.
So Mappa is doing quite a few things, but there's no date on it yet. Just 2022, so maybe even like late winter or something. But there's
See
actually,
October 2022 when I Google.
okay, so maybe fall, winter season, whichever one that is. But
Yeah, seems about right.
yeah, but there's also Goblin Slayer 2, uh, Tanya the Evil 2, Uzumaki, and Jigu Karaku coming out sometime during this year or next year. Jigu Karaku is made by Mappa, and that might be the anime of the year, depending. So you know that guy who did hold on, let me look at the manga because we're actually going to move into manga very soon. I'm just looking up the name of it because it
Yeah,
only.
there's one other manga I want to talk about besides well, actually, there's a few I want to talk about. A few by Fujimoto, but there's one other I want to talk about besides Chainsaw Man because we've discussed it a few times, and the fact that it's good infuriates me.
Right,
And I think you know what I mean. We'll get.
sure. Uh, I can't find the name. So there's Hell's Paradise, Chigukuraku. Was there another chapter I just missed? So there's Red Riding Hood, which was pretty good but short-lived, and I've got something I want to say about that eventually. But where is it? Robot X Laserbeam was too good for the Sinful Earth. I love that series.
Oh, that was the Golf series, right?
Yeah, it was.
I was. That was by the Kuroko no Basuke guy.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't know who it was by because I don't really follow the artists. Like I follow Sutomu Nihei, but he just keeps disappointing me, and it makes me
I
sad.
only knew like because it was advertised like a couple of this by the Kuroko no Basuke guy, and
Ayashiman.
as
Mm,
yeah, as everybody knows, Kuroko, who's been listening to the show for any length of time, Kuroko no Basuke is my jam. I love that show. Uh, it's like JoJo but with high school basketball. It
yeah,
is absurd and ludicrous, and it's amazing. Uh,
Ayashiman
I
is the
love it.
manga I was talking about, and I've got like yeah. Um, anyway, that's what anime's coming up. There's also a new Sutomu Nihei project actually on his Aposisms work, which wasn't my favorite, but mostly artistically and kind of story wise. It was very plain. Um, looking through it, Shonen Jump has been going through a lot of changes recently. Uh, and more or less, there's been a few. Um, there's been a lot of shakeups in the roster.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's anybody who watches Eye Patch Wolf, in his Shonen Jump video, by far the most shocking thing in that entire video, and I mean by far, like, and even he says it in the video. This blew my mind. Is that One Piece is now in fourth place in the rankings? Which, if you know anything about One Piece's dominance of the industry, basically since its inception, this is like absolutely mind blowing to see One Piece all the way down in fourth. Now, to be clear, fourth is in no danger of cancellation. Its sales are quite good. Uh,
mm,
like it, there is no. If you're in the top 10, you're not in danger of cancellation, and they're in the top 5. Yeah, so
yeah,
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we're nearing like the end of One Piece or anything like that.
and it should
And
be
by
said,
all
it's
counts,
like fifth place in millions of sales. Like
yeah,
it's like saying that Tolkien, Lewis, J.K. Rowling, and uh, I don't want to use like J.R.R. Martin or something stupid like that. Susanna Clark are in a room, and um, um I'm just trying to think of people who aren't trash, so I don't like sully the stream. And then China Mielville is outside. Like China Mielville has still outsold everyone who's ever published for Superversive Press. So it's like it's different,
yeah, combined,
right?
easily.
Yep.
Basically, though, one of those. The point being, it's less that it's a sign that One Piece is in trouble, which it's not, and more a sign that things are really, really changing at Shonen Jump. Like My Hero Academia, everybody, if you talk to like people who are like super long-term fans of MHA, you'll see a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's gone down a little in quality," but it hasn't gone down in sales. It's actually like steadily crept up in sales and has actually snuck into the top 3, which good for Horikoshi. Yeah.
Right.
And for the record, I'm going to go on the record right now and say that I actually think that the current arc, which is probably but not definitely the final arc of MHA, is quite good. I have no issues with it. I think that it's been fun and has been fine. And if MHA ends here, I think it will be like a solid 8 of 10 series. You know, would have done its job, would be very satisfied with it. But, like, the point being, Eye Patch Wolf, I think, put it best. Like, Horikoshi figured out what his audience wanted, and he gives that to them. Like, he consistently gives his audience what they want. It also helps that, whatever you think of the storytelling, the artwork has just been absolutely phenomenal in My Hero Academia lately. So good. But above it, I think, was, like, Spy Family is above it, which deservedly so. Spy Family is outstanding. And Demon Slayer was above it somehow, because Demon Slayer will never die.
It just won't.
And it's not even that great, but it will never die.
I think it hits a certain cultural heritage in the Japanese, just in the
Yeah, it
right
does.
way.
So this leads us all onto, through
hmm,
a very roundabout route, to Chainsaw Man.
Yep.
Chainsaw Man, we have discussed it before. I don't think it's ever been the specific topic of a stream, though it's possible it was just like a year ago and I forgot. Either way, it's been a while since we talked about it, and it is a series worth talking about. So first off, here is just my general opinion on Chainsaw Man. I think it's really good.
Wow.
I know, it's a hot take. I understand. I'm going out on a limb saying that, but I do think that Chainsaw Man is excellent. Yes, I have read the entire thing. I am caught up on it. Although, I think if a chapter came out today, I didn't read it, but...
It didn't.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so I'm caught up on Chainsaw Man. I'll also say, for the record, so they basically, like, Chainsaw Man essentially, it ended. Like, if he had ended the series at the point that he did, I would have been fine with Chainsaw Man never returning. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
Right? Like, it wrapped up the major plot arcs fairly well. Denji, the main character, was in a good place. Like, all of that stuff.
Epic
His...
fight.
Yeah, good final fight. The character was in a satisfying place. His major relationships had been more or less tied off in a nice way. Right? Like, if it had ended there, I would have been okay if that was all we got of Chainsaw Man. But Fujimoto had always said he intended to bring it back. It was always meant to just be a hiatus. And he did bring it back, and you want to know something? These first 2 chapters, since he's brought it back, have been amazing.
They have been. They have been 10 out of 10. And they haven't even shown off Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, which I think was a really smart decision, to be honest with you. Like, you gotta keep the audience anticipating what's gonna come. So my thoughts on Chainsaw Man. The first question is, we are the Superversive live stream, so we need to discuss it, is Chainsaw Man Superversive? And I would say that the answer to that question is yes. It is. But Fujimoto is a very interesting writer. So, first off, did you read his 18-page one-shot, Just Listen to the Song?
Yep.
I would highly recommend it, because I think it really, really gives a good insight into what Fujimoto thinks of the entire Chainsaw Man phenomenon. Also, it's hysterical. Like, it's legitimately one of the funniest manga I've ever read. I actually laughed out loud at the end of it. Maybe because I'm just a mean person and the ending is very mean. But it's an incredibly mean ending. But I'm going to go over Just Listen to the Song, because I actually think that's important for understanding the philosophy of Fujimoto. And I do not think it's a coincidence at all that he released this the week before Chainsaw Man came out. I think that was extremely intentional. So, Just Listen to the Song is about a kid decides he's gonna, a high school kid, decides he's gonna confess to his crush by writing a song and posting it on YouTube and showing it to her. But before he could show it to her privately, the song goes viral and it's terrible, according to him. Like, it's not even a very good song.
No, it's not a very good song. Everyone says that it's not a good song.
Yeah, but when it goes viral, people start reading things into the song that aren't actually there. They start saying, like, actually, this song is really a work of genius, and you could tell by the symbolism, and some of the symbolism is hilarious too. They're like, if you play the song backwards, it talks about the death of God. And like, if you listen, if you listen to the symbolism in this verse, then it's a critique of American gun culture. And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about American gun culture. Why would I critique American gun culture? So finally, his parents start because it goes so viral and it's like gets millions of views. His parents even start asking him to make a follow-up. So he creates a follow-up video with the title "Just Listen to the Song," with the obvious message of stop trying to read things into it that aren't there. Just listen to the song. And Just Listen to the Song, though it also does get millions of views, is very unpopular and bombs. And he loses all of his popularity, and he just gets depressed and deletes both videos. The manga ends with the girl he was going to confess to sits down on a train next to him and says, "So, those songs, they were about me, right?" She's like, "You were trying to confess to me." And he's like, "Yeah." And then she looks at him and goes, "That is super cringe." And then it just says, and then he puts his head in his hands and it says "The End." And that's it. That's the whole manga. Which is a hysterical ending. So essentially, like, that's the one reason he actually created the songs, and her reaction was, "Bro, really? That's lame." Uh, which is really funny. It's kind of depressing, but really funny. And I think what you are supposed to get out of that, I remember having this reaction after Jeff, in typical Mother's Basement Jeff fashion, did his video on Chainsaw Man. And his video on Chainsaw Man, was like, Chainsaw Man is actually peak fiction. It's a masterpiece. It does everything. And I remember watching the video and liking Chainsaw Man quite a bit. I think it's excellent. And thinking something is off about this video. Like, Chainsaw Man is not that good. Like, it's great, but come on, it's a Shonen Jump manga about a dude who can turn into a chainsaw and fights demons. Like, there's only so high that I'm willing to get. There's only so much I'll give it credit for.
Yeah.
And there was just something about the video that seemed very forced. Like, Jeff was reading things into the story and the manga that were clearly not there so that he could make his video, which is typical Jeff fashion, right?
Right.
He'll do anything for a buck. He'll do anything for an interesting video. Say things that are even clearly nonsense for an interesting video. And I feel like Just Listen to the Song kind of validated that point of view. I don't think Chainsaw Man was ever meant to be a masterpiece. I think that judging it on the merits that you would of, like, a genuine work of art, like, say, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, or Berserk, even, I think is missing the point of what Chainsaw Man is supposed to be. Chainsaw Man is a story about a kid who can turn into a chainsaw and fights demons.
Yep.
That's not to say that there is nothing worth analyzing in Chainsaw Man. There absolutely is, and we're going to get into it. And it deserves all of the credit it has for executing its premise in such an excellent and entertaining way. But it's not a masterpiece. It was not meant to be a masterpiece. I don't think that the creator ever thought of it on that level. I think he was having fun. What is your take on all of this, Ben?
So, I agree. First and foremost, I more or less agree with what you're saying here. I'm picking up what you're laying down. I think that having things read into your work comes with the process, and I do not believe in things like death of the author. I think that it's like you can see where like some of the things come from, like a critique of American gun culture. Yeah, like the Gun Devil. The Gun Devil is a boss that shows up, and like its introduction is just the art, and in the background is the name of everyone killed in the fight. and it just keeps going for a bit, and it's an absolutely amazing scene. Um, it doesn't end well, but
So, who was that character who died? Aki? Was that his name?
yes,
Aki's death scene is honestly probably one of my favorite all-time death scenes in Shonen. It's really like a beautifully done scene, and it's legitimately one of the saddest scenes in a Shonen that I think I've ever read. Uh,
absolutely.
but I loved it. It was so good.
But he like it's not a critique of American gun culture. It's the demons are this powerful, the demons are this horrible. I in general, I'm against reading into art stuff. It's like politics. Like you can choose political things and read into it. But the fact is that arguing for student debt forgiveness or farmer debt forgiveness, which I'm starting to advocate for myself, does not make me a communist. Just like if I write some, like Jack Morrow is like a libertarian wet dream. Let's be real about him.
And again, I think that just listen to the song is very much the point, like very much the point of that. Even the things mentioned in it, like
yeah,
this is a critique of American gun culture. Clearly, that is a reference to the Gun Devil, right, in
right.
Chainsaw Man. And I would agree with Fujimoto, where he's like, I don't know anything. I didn't read critique of gun culture. I read what would the most powerful demon be. Well, you know what the most dangerous weapon in the world is by terms of number of people killed and how often it's used? Guns. Therefore, the most powerful demon would be the gun demon. If I were building that world,
Yep.
I would make the same decision that Fujimoto made. Like, I would make the gun demon the most powerful demon.
But what about the
You know,
pandemic demon? How powerful would the coronavirus demon be?
that's interesting, and I wonder if he'll do that. But no, I think it needs to be
I
something
don't think he'll
created
do
by.
that.
Oh, wait, never mind. The pandemic was created by humans. What?
Oop.
Who said that? Anyway.
But no. So like the thing with what I was saying though is that I'm not arguing for libertarianism through Jack Morrow, who is clearly incredibly asocial and just not wanting to interact with anybody. I'm not arguing for communism because I advocate for debt. Like there's subtleties to it, but in the end, I'm not arguing for or against a political persuasion. I am arguing for what does the most good for the most people. Art is like that. You can have political persuasions and ideas and stuff, and you can put it in there, but ultimately, if it is not entertaining, it is worthless. It is absolutely worthless. There are a whole bunch of things, especially like the isekai stuff, that are just not entertaining at all. Overlord is exciting for one episode. Shield Hero is exciting for one episode and the episode where they go over the magic. Everything else is just this dreary, drab, depressing, horrible, dysgenic thing.
Literally, Overlord is Log Horizon, but worse.
Yep. Log Horizon stays exciting. No Game No Life is exciting every arc. All these other things, like good art, whatever they're arguing for, good art outs for its own sake. One of the things that I've noticed some of the shorter lived series do is that they go meta. Uh, Ayashimon and Red Riding Hood are both kind of guilty of this. And what they do is they have characters who are like Red Riding Hood is reading a story while the final fight happens, and it's obviously the final fight. I don't know if they planned that out from the beginning or if they planned more. I think that it wasn't hitting the numbers, and so they decided to get rid of it. And the editor, and I'm going to say editor for a reason, decided that referencing Shonen Jump or stories in general within a story is a good idea. Ayashimon did the same thing, and it got pretty big in the last two chapters. Because, it probably wasn't as popular as Jigo Karaku, or maybe the guy didn't want to write it. Who knows? I don't actually care. I assume that there's stats I can look at somewhere, if I care to look. So, what they do is they take it, it's like, oh, well, this is like a story, and if it's a story, you can control things. blah blah blah, and like it makes sense in Red Riding Hood when it's like turns out that there's a book that controls everything, and the main villain, who happens to be the old grandfather character, is after it, and he wants to erase all the monsters in the world. You know what? That's not a bad story, but it was clear that they were given 3 chapters to end it. Uh, in Ayashimon, they have a scene where a guy is hallucinating, and he was already reading manga to inspire himself, which was kind of a weak thing, but wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't strong. It was just kind of middle of the road sort of motivation, and like he was abused at home, so he reads manga. All right, that's not bad. That's not bad. But what happened was is that while he was hallucinating himself as a manga artist. It's like, should I end the series? Nah, dude, fight on. And then he gets up to fight the baddie of the arc. Um, and it just felt bad. Like it felt bad. It was meta. It was meta as all get out, and it was offensively meta. And Jigakuraku was a fantastic story. It was a fantastic world, and he just couldn't hold it together. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because Chainsaw Man and Fujimoto, is that right?
Yep.
Fujimoto's other work, Fire Punch, relevant work, long form, is also has a decent amount of meta. Less Chainsaw Man, but definitely in Fire Punch. You have a character who's also an immortal who, wants to make the ultimate movie through this character, and they're kind of insane. And they're kind of this weird outside lens to look back over the character's lives and sort of choices that he's made. Um, and it works for the simple reason that the character is, even though they try to be an outside influence, they are not. They are inside the story, participating with character arcs and choices that they make. And when they make their choices, it has an effect on characters outside themselves. So, in other words, it's not just relegated to a final fight or the internal life of the main character. Even if the main character was delusional, it would not excuse the sin, so to say, of going too meta with the choices from an outside perspective. And an inside perspective too, but it's different. Like, that's postmodern. Like, oh, we're in a manga, so yeah, we gotta fight now, right? Ha ha ha. Shut up, Disney. I don't care. I don't like it. I hate it. It's stupid. But, because Marvel does it all the time, actually, in its own way. But it's, but like in the form of it though, Fujimoto, even though it was a major part of Fire Punch, and Fujimoto is a great lover of cinema and Western cinema, he doesn't bring that into Chainsaw Man in the same way. Instead, he focuses on the story and the characters in and of themselves as if it's a normal manga without any meta stuff, even though Fujimoto is very meta with it. Like One Piece, I don't know how meta Oda was, but One Piece has zero meta in it. Like, they'll have, it's like, oh, we're 2 pirate captains, we gotta fight. But that's like territory, right? The excuse is they're 2 pirate captains and they can't be in the same place without one being boss of the other. That's how it works. Super Smartphone, which I know you want to talk about, and we will when I'm done with the point I'm making, is half and half meta. But because they take a Death Note style of play, counterplay, scheme, counter scheme, it works because it's internal to the characters and every character that's interacting with it, not from our point of view to them. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, yeah, in terms of Chainsaw Man, first off, yeah, Fujimoto is actually more meta in other stuff, like Goodbye Eri, which was his
very meta.
50-page one-shot, extremely meta, to the point where I actually didn't like it as much as some people seem to.
I enjoyed it
Uh,
quite a bit.
I liked it. It was good. For that matter, just listen to the song was obviously incredibly meta, but I think that was the point. Like,
Yeah,
just listen to the song was a commentary on Chainsaw Man. I am pretty
right.
sure.
It,
So
like, commentary works outside of the work that's being commented on, but not inside
yeah,
the work.
I'm like 90% sure that was meant to be. Like, there was absolutely no coincidence in when it was released. The fact that it talked about gun culture and the death of God, which are both things that people attribute as like
Right.
major themes of Chainsaw Man. Which, by the way, again, I would argue that Fujimoto is correct. That is not true in either case. I would not consider Chainsaw Man to be either a critique of religion in any meaningful way or a critique of gun culture. I don't think it's commenting on either.
Don't
Like, I
you
don't
know
think he
you
has.
should fear the Lord? Therefore.
Yeah, like, I don't think it has anything to say about either topic,
Right.
nor is it trying to. Like, I'm not saying that as a criticism. It doesn't have to have anything to say about it. That's simply not what the work is about. Yeah, but,
Right.
like, people will read that into it as if that's what, you know, Chainsaw Man is trying to say. So, that does raise the question, though, of I called Chainsaw Man Superversive earlier, so what is Chainsaw Man trying to say? And I would say this: what makes Chainsaw Man a superversive work is that it is about a person who was abused and neglected his entire life. And in this case, it's like abused by society and neglected by society to the point where it warped his upbringing. And who does not believe that he owes anything to society. He does not believe that society, and he takes on his role as a demon hunter for entirely selfish reasons, to the point that in semi-comical scenes, he will put civilians in danger if it means killing a demon. And the reason that he wants to kill these demons is literally, this is explicit in story, so he could touch tits. Uh, like, this is not even a euphemism. This is actually the plot of Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
And this is where Denji starts out. He's described as an animal, you know, but over the course of the story, as he gets to know the demon hunters, as he gets to see what the demons are doing, and as he interacts with people and sees how they interact with him, Denji gains a sense of purpose in the world. By the end of the story, he seems to be genuinely moved by people's love of Chainsaw Man.
Yep.
Like, he describes himself as, like, the people love Chainsaw Man. He wants to protect people. He started off as somebody who was almost like an animal, who was doing this for completely base reasons. You know, uh, who was utterly, literally, he is called a dog, right?
Yep.
Who is barely even a human. Hence, his heart is merged with a demon, literally. That's the point. And he ends it by accepting his role as a protector of humanity and embracing the love of the people that other people have for him, even if indirectly. And this comes from his relationships with power. And his relationship with Power is a beautiful example of this, where Power is literally a demon who he makes more human, essentially. And she makes Denji also more human in her relationship with him because they both have this connection that humanizes them. Aki's care for Chainsaw Man, he starts off absolutely hating Denji, thinking that Denji is, basically a brat, basically a selfish, a selfish moron, right? And
Right.
he comes and he ends this story genuinely caring about Denji and concerned about Denji's future, which is why Aki's death is so horribly tragic when it happens.
Yep.
So that's where I think I would say that Chainsaw Man is genuinely superversive. And I would also say that I think this is what Chainsaw Man is actually about. This is where it differentiates itself from similar stories. So Demon Slayer actually has a very similar plot to Chainsaw Man in just broad strokes, right? I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
Demon Slayer takes place in a different time period, though not as different as people who watch Demon Slayer sometimes think, but a different time period. But the major themes of Demon Slayer and the way that they tell the story are completely different. Yeah, I would also call Demon Slayer Superversive. So, in both cases, demons are hunting the world, and a demon hunting organization is created to take out the demons, right?
Yep.
That's the same basic plot in both of them. And the main character is a member of this organization, and he's working his way to the top indirectly. You know,
Right.
Tanjiro is very explicitly trying to make his way to the top. Denji is making his way to the top, sort of almost by accident, but he is.
Hmm.
You know, in either case, they're both trying to kill demons to help humans, and that's the story. Which is no problem with that. That is a perfectly fine plot.
Right.
Uh, I mean, Red Hood actually has the same basic plot, except instead of demons, it's fairy tale monsters.
Yep.
You know, there is nothing wrong with that. I think, though, it gets interesting when you get into the nuances of what each story is about. So, Demon Slayer, I would argue, uh, in the character of Tanjiro, who, unlike Denji is not an aspirational character. Tanjiro is. You are
Yep.
supposed to admire Tanjiro. You are supposed to want to be like Tanjiro. And Demon Slayer is superversive in the way that Tanjiro reacts to the tragic circumstances around him. He rises above them. You know, whereas Chainsaw Man is superversive in a different way. Again, it's about Chainsaw Man is not about somebody who is rising above their terrible circumstances, but somebody who, thanks to the love of the people around him, even indirectly, right? Like,
Hmm.
even if only accidentally, just by forming connections, realizes that there is, you know, something worthwhile about both himself and humanity outside of just being an animal, being, being a demon, really, right?
Yep.
Which is essentially what he is. It is no coincidence that his love interest, or at least who Denji sees as a love interest, and by the way, we're spoiling the heck out of Chainsaw Man. I want to discuss it, so I have to.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I want to discuss the story, so I have to spoil it like that to discuss it properly. Anyway, it's no coincidence that Makima, or that's her name, right?
Hmm.
Mak with a K? Yeah, Makima. It's no coincidence that Makima herself is a demon, right? Like,
Yeah.
and she's the one who brings him in. She doesn't care about Denji being a human. She doesn't want Denji to become more human. She wants Denji to remain a dog.
Yep.
That's literally, again, what she refers to him as. She wants Denji to remain base like an animal, but almost accidentally, his love for her turns Denji more human by mistake, kind
Yep.
of. And it's what leads to Makima's death.
Yep. She makes an assumption that he will remain, a base animal rather than a growing living person. Because as he puts it, like, you don't see these people as people, do you? Sort of thing. And I think that's very on the nose for it. Uh, she has a whole bunch of dogs that look like some of the people she's killed, who might also be the people, but it's never quite, made clear. And the reason for that,
Right, exactly.
you know,
And it's also, she unintentionally creates this.
yep,
Like, she doesn't think that Denji will rise above, but the fact is that what she didn't understand about Denji is that Denji was a person. He genuinely loved her.
yep,
Like, it wasn't an entirely animalistic love. It wasn't the love for a dog for its master, which is what she thought it was,
right,
right? It's what she wanted it to be. But he actually loves her. This is what allows him to kill her at the end, right? When he
yep,
consumes her, they literally say, "So how were you able to do it?" And he says, "Well, because I never intended to hurt her. Like, I actually loved her. I wanted to consume her and be closer to her. And, like, yeah, it's partially kind of a joke because Denji's kind of insane. Uh,
yep,
but there is some thematic weight there. The thematic weight in this case is that Denji, the fact that Denji genuinely cares about her is the blind spot that leads to Makima being killed. She thinks he cares about her in the way a dog cares for its master, blind loyalty. You give it something, it wants something, right?
Yep.
Maybe, you're pretty, you could touch my boob. Literally,
Yep.
base, animalistic. But Denji has risen above that, and part of the reason he's able to rise above that is in the entirely non-sexual relationship with Power. And Power is a demon, but she is also a pretty girl. And the fact that Denji has no sexual relationship at all with Power, but instead they find something that they find things they can genuinely bond over. They find human connections with each other. So I think in that sense, yeah, it's true. Chainsaw Man genuinely is a beautiful story in that way. I think that Fujimoto does a really good job of getting this across in a way that's not the most obvious way you would do it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a pretty good scene where, just to illustrate this, where Power has this joke where it's like, all right, well, you want to touch me? Well, I'll let you touch mine if you. I think it's Save Her Cat. I can't quite remember because it's been a bit since I read it, but I remember it. And so the gag is that he does it. It turns out she's wearing fake pads, the scoundrel, and he's like, I don't know anything about this. So he gets a kiss from what is her name? I forget her name.
I don't remember her name, but the scene is hilarious because she throws up in his mouth.
Exactly. And he's like, you know what? This ruined it. This ruined everything. And so he goes from being like, I don't have any human experiences with any of this, to, oh, if I don't like it, I just kind of don't like it, I guess. It's like I don't feel anything for this person. And she vomited in my mouth. And I swallowed it because I'm an animal still. Which I thought was absolutely hilarious. It's like, oh no, we know what's coming. This is why,
yeah, there's a serious difference to how Chainsaw Man reacts to the people praising him at the end of the story to how he reacts at the beginning of the story. At the beginning of the story, he has to be told, look, if you, cause civilian casualties and you will get in trouble for it, basically. And otherwise he just wouldn't care. Whereas at the end of the story, everybody's cheering for Chainsaw Man, and he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm Chainsaw Man. I'm awesome. I'm going to protect these people. That is my job. And again, this is not a unique character arc, but the way that Fujimoto goes about it is very much... I think this is what makes Chainsaw Man so good. It's very much not the obvious route you would go. You don't even realize that this is where it's going till it's there, almost. And I think, too, in these two new chapters that we see, post Chainsaw Man Revival, right? Yep. These first two chapters, I think we're going to see more in this vein, because who is the main character of this version of the story? It's a suicidal girl. But it's a suicidal girl who is being controlled by a demon, but she doesn't actually want to, and sure, she hates Chainsaw Man, but now when push comes to shove, she doesn't want to actually hurt anybody. It's the same sort of arc, where it's like she's discovering in this trauma the value of life. There is some precedent for this. For example, the story of, I don't know if you've heard of this, maybe. Anybody who's heard of true crime will have heard of it. Lisa McVeigh, I believe her name was. Lisa McVeigh was a girl who was going to commit suicide, she was planning on it. She was riding her bike and was coming up with a plan to kill herself because she was being abused at home. When she is kidnapped by a serial killer and rapist, tortured for several days, but she manages to convince the serial killer and rapist to let her go. As soon as she leaves, she dedicates her life to taking down, the serial killer and rapist, and manages to get him captured and put in jail. Because of her courage, and even gets her abuser put in jail. It's actually quite an inspiring story. I believe it's Lisa McVeigh. I might be wrong. I think what we're going to see, this is my prediction, it looks like that's where we're going in this current arc of Chainsaw Man. You have this girl who doesn't really see life as worth living, who wanted to die anyway, but now that she is her body is being controlled by a demon, and she's being asked to do these horrible things. She's talking about getting her body back and will want to live.
Yep.
It's about seeing the value of life.
I mean, even when he introduces the chicken demon, which of course no man fears a chicken. Uh, it's like, I'm doing this so you guys understand, the value of life, and it's like, first off,
That chicken demon thing was both hilarious and kind of terrifying.
it absolutely was. Like, where did he get this chicken demon? Did he just find it? Like, they have like demon hunters, but it just feels weird. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, there's some questions here I have, and I feel like they might be answered, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like, yeah, no, he just found it in the street, befriended the chicken demon. It's weak. Somebody fell on it and it died.
Yeah. So the fact that I don't think it was really a twist. The fact that the chicken demon ended up being evil.
What?
I
The
think
chicken demon wasn't evil?
I thought
I
something
mean, it
comes
was.
slithering out of it at the end, and it like tries to kill someone.
No?
Am I remembering this wrong?
I don't remember that at all. Hold on.
I'll have to look up the chapter from Shonen Jump. Yeah, the chicken demon thing was very weird and very creepy and also hilarious.
Wow, you guys don't want to kill me? That's an excellent idea. And it's like, wow, we have the value of life now. It's like, weirdos.
It's like, yeah, we've learned the value of life. It's like Fujimoto making fun of himself. Again, that's like the very, I'm trying to think of how to put it, like you were saying, very meta way, but not meta at the same time. Because, don't get me wrong, it made perfect sense in the context of Chainsaw Man. It did not reference outside of it. It was not meta in that sense.
Yeah.
But it was meta in that there was clearly he was clearly mocking himself.
Right.
Yeah, like, I have taught you the value of life, and it's an extremely on-the-nose metaphor.
Right. I gotta, like, it feels weird, though, because he was also, like, abusing the class representative, who went crazy, made a deal with the Justice Devil, and, turned evil.
Yeah, he was having an affair with her, right?
Yeah. Well, I call it abusing, but,
You're correct. Oh, yeah, don't
yeah.
get me wrong, you're correct.
And it's like,
Uh,
it's bad, and it's like, it just feels weird. I'm not quite sure what he meant by this. Um, so it's like, that part, okay, I get it, but what? Sort of thing. It's like, I'm not sure what the thing was for it, except it did make...
I think he was making fun of himself, honestly. Like, that's what I got out of it. And he was also making fun of people with very on-the-nose, morals to their stories.
Sure.
Chainsaw Man, like, the morals that I'm getting out of Chainsaw Man here, I do need to, like, tease it out. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But not, like, read into it too much, but just enough. Just enough
like,
reading into it.
It's not... I would say that Fujimoto is very much not, he is not on the nose with his symbolism or anything like that. You do need to, you do need to, like, put some work in. And I think he was just making fun of people who have those very on-the-nose lessons in their stories. And also making fun of himself a little bit, because that is part of the moral of Chainsaw Man. Value of life and all of that.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's there in Chainsaw Man to an extent. So I think he was just kind of mocking himself.
Oh, yeah. There's always a place for that.
And it was funny. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It made me laugh.
No, it's like the whole reaction where everyone's just standing there for a minute freaking out, and then, like, she just vomits and faints, and then the next image is her on her bed staring at the ceiling like, what happened? What have I done? I killed Bucky. Bucky was a friend. He had egg puns. He had chicken puns.
Oh yeah, they're like, now everyone's gonna hate you because you killed Bucky. But yeah, like, she goes insane, and then... Who is it? Isn't it, like, the war demon that took her over or something?
Yep.
Who, by the way, you would think would be even larger than even more powerful than the gun demon, but whatever.
Well, like, it's just a cuckoo, and that's like, it's a cuckoo. Like, it's I'm not sure what to do with it. Like, there's something there that shows up, and, like, he says it says, I guess, he says, very specifically that he can only use things that are his. And so I think that implies that war itself isn't very, like, scary unless you give yourself to it, and then war can use you.
Oh, I get. Yeah, possibly. It's
Possibly.
interesting because I'm not sure. You're like you said. I'm not completely sure where he's going with that, but uh, yeah, it's good though. It's very good. And currently, at this point in the story, she is searching for Chainsaw Man, who may or may not have gone undercover in the school. I suspect probably not.
I think.
Although I
I.
could also imagine Fujimoto, uh, since he likes to do this, just surprising everybody by having Chainsaw Man show up like first page of the next chapter and going, "Yo, you're a demon."
Yeah, I could see
Uh,
that. I think.
that seems like something Fujimoto would do.
So here's something more serious, though. I think that the good-looking student that was introduced in the last chapter is the good-looking guy from um, the Chainsaw Man season 1 set, who interacted with them during the puppet demon arc.
I don't remember this.
So there was a guy who had a contract with the octopus demon, and he,
I'm gonna have to Google all this.
I swear, like, he exists, and he's this good-looking guy to do it, and I bet um, he is,
Yeah, the Octopus Devil. Okay.
yeah, the octopus devil, and he, used it for like a chapter or two. He did not play a major role, but he was seriously introduced like he would have a major plot connected to him.
Hirofumi Yoshida.
Yep, I think that guy is the good-looking student.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe. Octopus Devil's ranking in the popularity polls are as follows. Octopus Devil ranked 55th in the second popularity poll with 327 votes.
300 votes. What?
That amuses me. It showed up for one panel.
Right. I mean, it was a pretty cool look, though. Like, it was pretty cool.
It was. Yeah, okay, I just looked this up. Yeah, no, Chainsaw Man, I'm really, really looking forward to Mappa's anime adaptation of it. So, I think the contrast with Demon Slayer is very interesting because of just how similar they are in premise and how different they are in execution, yet both of them are superversive. So, I would say the main message of Demon Slayer, what they're trying to get across, I think that Demon Slayer is, first off, I think Demon Slayer cares a lot less about being even slightly original. And at least partially to its detriment.
Yep.
Like, it's a very unoriginal manga. Sorry, Demon Slayer.
Like,
But
it's like the, how do I want to put it? Like, it has everything that it should be that's pretty good, but nothing exceptional in it that really pushes it to truly memorable position. Like, some of the characters are interesting. This dynamic is good, that dynamic is good, but it's not.
I've always said I think that I've always thought that My Hero Academia, for example, was actually the far superior story. And the reason for this is that the character writing in My Hero Academia is much, much better than the character writing in Demon Slayer. I don't know if I would say that that's also true of Chainsaw Man. I do think that that's a very, very outstanding aspect.
The character writing?
Of My Hero Academia. I think that's an outstanding aspect of My Hero Academia, and I think it deserves more credit for that. Like, I think that the character writing of MHA is genuinely, like, stellar more often than not. And it deserves more credit than it gets for that. Like, it can be really, really. With that said, Demon Slayer, as far as like the show, again, after I criticized Jeff for calling it, he, Jeff was calling it something very specific. Like he was saying, this is a peak fiction masterpiece. Like this is, one of the greatest works of fiction ever created type masterpiece, which is true. But I would say that it is definitely a classic shonen series. My Hero, and I mean Chainsaw Man. Like, I think it is a classic. And I think it is a masterpiece of shonen battle manga. Right? Like, it's among
Yeah.
the top tier of shonen battle manga. Is it better than MHA? Sometimes, I would say. So, Fujimoto and Horikoshi have very different styles,
Yep.
right? And I'm talking about art specifically here. Both of their art is excellent. I personally think Horikoshi is probably my current favorite artist in Shonen Jump. Their styles, though, are intentionally very different, so comparing the two isn't necessarily fair. Fujimoto is just not doing the same sort of thing that Horikoshi is doing, which is fine. Uh, in terms of storytelling, My Hero Academia, that the plot is kind of where My Hero Academia falls down a bit. The pacing of MHA is a bit off, and I don't think that it does a lot of really interesting things with its plot.
Right.
And where it excels is in its character writing, which is top of the class for shonen stories, like really S tier character writing, especially Endeavor and the Todoroki are just perfectly written. The character arc of Bakugo is brilliantly written. Even Deku deserves a lot more credit than he gets. He is an extremely well-written protagonist when you actually dig into the details of it. Generally, I don't really think anybody is badly written but Mineta. Fuck Mineta. What?
Wow.
I hate Mineta. I hate him.
Didn't you see his interview where he refused to answer any questions about whether or not he had been intimate with the Pirate Queen? Or when he destroyed the AI generator or hid the treasure? Man, that was a class act. I hated every second of it. Arrogant.
Chase Smash, yeah, that was amusing. I will say that. Fair enough. But I hate him in the main manga. But outside of Mineta, I think the characters are very well written. So, what does Chainsaw Man do better? Well, I think that although the plot of Chainsaw Man, I would say, could sometimes get a little overly convoluted, and like their lore can get a little convoluted, I think generally is better paced and better constructed than MHA's plot. I think that, the foreshadowing and twists tend to be a little bit better. Not the character development necessarily. I think that the way the characters develop in MHA is very, very good. But the plot structure is not as good.
Yeah.
And I would say
it's a
that
different sort of thing though. That's the thing.
right, it's different, but I think he does a better job with it. And I think I also would say that Chainsaw Man is a lot better at keeping you guessing at what's coming next,
Yep.
while also feeling satisfying when it happens. Like, one of the big criticisms I would have of MHA is the way that they handled the Trader plotline. I don't think it was a total disaster. I don't think it ruined the series or anything, but it was probably like a C. You know what I mean? Like, C tier, the way they handled it. It wasn't a disaster. It didn't ruin the story, but there was a lot of missed potential there with the reveal of the traitor. Whereas all of the major plot twists that occur in Chainsaw Man, I think work really, really well. Like, there's nothing that happens in Chainsaw Man that makes me go, oh, that's disappointing. No, it's always like, wow, now what? Which
Yep.
is good. That's what you want to see, right? I don't think that there are any characters in Chainsaw Man that are as well developed as the best characters in MHA, meaning Bakugo, Endeavor, Todoroki, generally, even All Might
Yep.
to an extent. Like, I don't think that they have anything in there that gets to that level. I do think Denji's character development is quite good and quite subtle, but I don't think it ever hits as hard in the emotional beat moments. Aki's death, on the other hand, is one of the hardest hitting emotional moments I've read in the manga. Like, I really felt that when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt it too. Like, they told us it was happening from very
Yeah.
early on. Like, they go, oh, you're gonna die, it's gonna be terrible. You know,
It's gonna hurt.
and Chainsaw Man is gonna kill you.
Yep.
And, like, all of that happens, and it still hits. It hits really hard.
Right. It's like the
Like,
crazy future demon going, the future is best.
honestly, the way they handled Aki's whole arc was really brilliantly done. Like, the way they built it up, the anticipation of it
Yep.
was really, really clever. Uh,
Yeah.
where, you know, they have this whole thing, like, oh, a demon's gonna want something really big from you. It's like, I'll work with you, I just want your left eye. And then he's like, okay, perfect. And he's like, you're not gonna ask why, I only want your left eye? And Aki's like, no, I literally don't care. And then he's like, well, I'm gonna tell you anyway. It's because you're going to die a horrible death, and I want to see it. Because I like suffering. And Aki goes, I literally don't care. Just just help me. And he's like, cool, cool, cool. It's a great scene. By the way, Septius7 says, I always thought that the religion in Bookworm was closer to old Roman religion with temple prostitution, that it wasn't Catholic in any way. So, I would say... No, I'm going to disagree with that, actually, and here's why. The setting of Bookworm is very clearly, like, medieval Europe, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the religion needs to be the same religion. It's clearly not actually Catholic. Like, it's not meant to be the Catholic Church explicitly. But implicitly, that is very much the impression you are supposed to be reminded of when you look at the church. I mean, they get baptized. Not only that, it's not really temple prostitution, because it's like a secret pedophile ring.
Yep.
So,
That everyone knows about.
Yeah, that everybody knows about. So, no, I'm not willing to give Bookworm that pass. I think the fact that it's set in medieval Europe and that, like, the external trappings of it are supposed to be so intentionally reminiscent of the Catholic Church, I think that that's definitely what you're supposed to think when you look at it.
Yep.
I'm not willing to be that nice. But yeah, comparing the two, so I guess that's what I would say. I do think that MHA, when it ends, is going to be remembered as a classic shonen series. I don't think it will be remembered as a masterpiece, nor should it. And I think that's fine. Not everything needs to be. You know, I love MHA. It's one of my favorites. It always will be. It has a place in my heart, you know. But I think that when it ends, it's going to be remembered as a classic. You know, and 20 years from now, it's going to be looked at as, like, the the shonen anime of the 2010s, right? And I think Chainsaw Man is probably going to be remembered also in a similar fashion.
Yep.
I think it will also be remembered as probably the anime of the 2020s, since that's when it's going to be coming out. Similar to how Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, and all of them are remembered, right?
Yeah.
I guess my criteria here is this. As you know, consider peak shonen to be Full Metal Alchemist. I'm referring to the manga. The anime is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You gotta make that distinction. And I don't think that Chainsaw Man is as good as Full Metal Alchemist in any way. Are there things it does better? I'm not sure. I really don't know if there is, to be honest with you. But that's because I think that Full Metal Alchemist is a masterpiece, so that's not necessarily a fair comparison, but that's what we're comparing it to, right? We're comparing it to masterpieces. So, compared to what I think is actually a masterpiece, the Full Metal Alchemist manga, I don't think Chainsaw Man is on that level. I would put it in the lower tier with My Hero Academia and Yu Yu Hakusho. Very, very good. Very worth reading. Very worth watching. Better than Demon Slayer, which I would put, like, one tier below that. But not on the level of, genre defining. right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I would put Full Metal Alchemist as. Like, it's a genre-defining work. Yeah.
It's so to me, it is in a modern sense. Like, how do I want to put it? Like, so Full Metal.
Changing the direction that people are taking shonen.
Yeah, I'll accept that. So, like, there's like, this is gonna sound horrible. Basically, I've accepted that the culture is irredeemably postmodern, but people are finally starting to get over the, oh boy, we're going to reference XYZ and it's going to be great. We're going to be referential. Like people are mostly getting out of that in places where art is actually being done, like Shonen Jump. Not necessarily Disney or any of these other places. But in Shonen
Yeah,
Jump,
and
anyway.
that's worth saying that whatever you might think of Shonen Jump, and there is a lot of criticism that can be levied at it, I would say that art is being made there.
Yes. And it's something different than some of the stuff that has been done before, especially in YA novels, Disney ripoffs, and a few other things like that, where um, things have been referenced to death, and there's no way to actually have a genuine relationship with the art that has been made. Instead, it's like, oh, look at us, it's the princess in the castle, and except, oh, it's not a princess in the castle, it's a prince in the castle. Oh boy, whatever you want to say. Um, it, it's an evolution of the culture that's happening slowly around us. It's kind of like that with some of the stuff happening with like Superversive Press and some of the other things, and the revival that we're planning for it, where it's not about some sort of like super game plan that's going to, leverage the email marketing and, really build up this, that, or the other thing. No, we're going to make good stories and then we're going to advertise good stories. And we're not going to listen to some guru who's going to tell us how to, you know, do something, but never tell us how to actually write a good story. You know, it's something that's very tiresome. For me anyway, because it's like, okay, so you're both telling me there's no magic bullet, and the magic bullet that did exist was, 5 years ago in 2017 or something. I hate this. I hate that spent money on this, so on and so forth. We're out of that, and now we're actually moving back to good stories. And even though I said that thing with the meta earlier in the stream, uh, these were series that were dying, and they were basically saying, okay, how do I end this series in a way that's vaguely acceptable? You know, there's been worse endings that have happened suddenly.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, yeah, I thought I might have been still muted for a second, but okay, I get what you're saying. Like, in terms of Chainsaw Man, honestly, a lot of the modern stories, you'll notice with Shonen Jump, Wolf commented on this, with the exception of Spy Family, which is a notable exception, admittedly, because it's a huge hit, they have tended to be getting darker.
Yes.
Uh, and, granted, this is not universal, and I'm glad it's not. It shouldn't be universal. Like, because Spy Family is definitely a family manga, even though it does get bloody. It's a family manga. Uh, I wouldn't necessarily show it to 5-year-olds, but I would show it to 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Whereas I probably wouldn't show Chainsaw Man to 10-year-olds. I would show it to like teenagers. You know. So
Yep.
in that sense, I think that I'm trying to think of how to put it. I think that Chainsaw Man is definitely plotting a course forward for Shonen Jump, and I don't think that's a bad thing either, because Chainsaw Man is quite good.
Yep.
However, I do think that's what I was trying to say. I think that years from now, when we look back at Chainsaw Man, my thought, and this is certainly where I would rank it, is that it's in the tier of quality with My Hero Academia. Now, there is nothing wrong with being in the tier of quality. That is a high tier.
Yep.
Like, I think My Hero Academia is very, very good. You know, I unreservedly recommend it to just about anybody. But I think that one day we're going to look and go like, yeah, okay, maybe the masterpiece we thought it was. And I think that Fujimoto himself kind of sees that coming. Hence, just listen to the song,
Yep.
right? Yeah, like I think he also kind of realizes that. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like Chainsaw Man. Now, the other thing that you mentioned we were going to discuss, and now we're getting inside of the final half hour, so we should probably bring it up now. Uh, I didn't end up giving my conclusion on Demon Slayer, but Demon Slayer is much more wholesome, so that's
Yeah.
what you need to know. Uh,
It's a good time. It's just not a deep time.
right, right. I would say if you wanted to get the message across of Demon Slayer, uh, the main message that you're supposed to get out of Demon Slayer is, love is good. The end. Literally, like, I honestly think that that is the main message of Demon Slayer. Like, love for his family is what keeps her from going into turning into a demon. The love for the master, for the other demon slayers, keeps them loyal. Tanjiro shows compassion for the people he fights. Like, love is the key to things in Demon Slayer. It's a fine message. There's nothing wrong with a message like that. But I think that Chainsaw Man's message is also superversive, but more interesting. So that's what I would say about the comparison between the two. Anyway, on to Super Smartphone. Now, why am I bringing up Super Smartphone? Because that's a terrible concept. It's
What
so
is the
stupid.
concept?
The concept of Super Smartphone, then,
Yes.
uh, the concept of Super Smartphone is that this random high school kid who is very smart and a nice guy, but doesn't try very much in school ever since his brother disappeared several years ago.
No.
Am I wrong?
No, yes. I was just saying no in a
Oh,
shocked voice.
oh, I got it. Uh, One day gets a phone called I am not kidding here, a goo 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 phone. I don't know what occurred to them to make them choose this name. It's a terrible name. And the conceit of Super Smartphone is that you could use the Goo 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 phone to look up anything. Only if you want something too much, like, for example, to figure out what happened to his mysteriously disappeared brother, you need to accumulate enough Goo 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 points first to do it. And you do that just by using the Super Smartphone, which can talk and also knows everything. And that's it. That is the premise. And what infuriates me about this manga is that it's actually pretty good.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how else to say it. It is a solid time.
Yep.
Like, I would put it is very comparable to Death Note,
Yep.
right? Uh, I think, to be clear, I am not saying it is comparable in quality to Death Note. Death Note had some lows, but I think so far, at least, it's got a while to go before it hits Death Note's highs. There's no moments like the Lindell Taylor scene yet. There's no moment like when L introduces himself to Light, which is one of my favorite moments from an anime ever. Uh, Nothing like that so far. But its baseline level of quality and the way that it tells the story as well, there are a lot of similarities, and the similarities are not to Super Smartphone's detriment, if that
Yep.
makes sense. Like, I would compare it to Death Note in a positive way. Like, if you
Yes.
like Death Note,
Through
you
clenched teeth.
probably. What was that?
Through clenched teeth. He
Yes,
is he is recommending
you
it.
would probably like Super Smartphone. Uh, so I think what makes it work is that they take this absolutely retarded idea, and yeah, it is. It's a bad idea. Conceptually speaking, it's bad. It's dumb. And They do just about the most interesting thing you could do with it, which is they turn it into this cat and mouse game with another user of the super smartphone who is like this super sexy, and they draw him in like various states of undress constantly, and they make sure that he's like super ripped, which is kind of hilarious. Uh, this super sexy multi-millionaire who also happens to have a super smartphone and has been like gathering an army of super smartphone users, and he may know something about our boy main characters whose name I forget's brother. uh so it turns into this cat and mouse thing where like they have their own version of L, uh who is like a female detective who to be fair, I say female just to differentiate the character. Like, I don't think that this is a problem. Like, they don't
Yeah.
make it a thing. Yeah.
Like they're playing it
And
off pretty well, and part of it is that she's like doing it for her father, sort of thing. Which,
yeah.
like, for characters to have like depth, you can't just let them do something. Why are they doing it? Well, her dad died, disgraced, and she wants to redeem the name of Shimizu or whatever.
Right. And she's a pretty interesting character in her own right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they portray her as like she is a genius, and they give her, sort of ellish in that way. And they're giving her like carte blanche to lead this what they call the high rise incident investigations. She doesn't know about the super smartphones, but she knows that something is going on, and she wants to figure out what it is, and what these mysterious incidents at the high rise were caused by. So she gets led into the investigation by our main boy, who's been calling himself Pseudonym, and which, by the way, terrible secret identity name, 0 of 10.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
I kind of cringe a
really,
bit.
really Pseudonym. That's the best you could do.
Yes.
Whatever. Kira at least sounds kind of cool. Like, I get it,
Right.
man. But anyway, so our main boy, who I'm gonna call Pseudonym because I forget his real name, our main boy Pseudonym, like, kind of brings her in, and she's sort of trying to work this out on her own on the outside with her own team of people. And Pseudonym is like on her side more than the other guy is, more than our villain is, but also doesn't want her to figure out about the super smartphones or anything like that, because first, it could put her in danger, and second, it could get him in trouble. And our guy is not light, right? Like, he's a
Yeah.
nice guy. He is genuinely a good guy. We are rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
So the dynamics aren't exactly the same, but I think that the way that they do it is very smart. Like, they portray, I would call Death Note, I think what made it work and why that pace was so propulsive especially when it was on its game,
Yep.
is that it had like a call and response type of storytelling. Light would make a move, L would make a move. L would make a move, Light would make a move. And the call and response is what made the story so exciting. And I think that's what Super Smartphone is doing really well. Like, you want to see what the next move in the chess game is going to be, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are they going to do? How are they going to respond? And that's what makes the story interesting. This is why L introducing himself is honestly one of my uh, because it's such a shocking moment. Like, you think the entire time they set up that L's basically only advantage is that Kira does not know what he looks like and does not know his name. So by introducing himself to Kira, he has given him one of the two pieces necessary to kill him, his face.
Yep.
Right? So what makes that scene work so well is that when he introduces himself to Light, you are thinking almost exactly what Light is thinking in that moment. He has kind of a little blue screen of death, and your mind is going through the exact same thought process his is. Like, why? Why did he do that? That's insane. Is he insane? Like, like, what's going on? How could that possibly work? And then by the time Light figures out that he just did something genius, you have also probably figured out that he just did something genius at the same time Light has. And
Yep.
now you've opened up new avenues for how the story can go. how is Light going to respond to this move? And also, wow, what a character is L. Like, sure, it's an important move and it helps him, but that adds another level of risk to L's life.
Yep.
Super Smartphone, I think, needs this moment. If you know what I mean, like
Well,
it
they
needs a
tried
moment
it.
like
They
this.
did try. When they're
What are you referring to?
so when the characters are talking to Shimizu, both Pseudonym and Zenshiro, uh,
Shiro.
uh, basically like they're both trying to play the same like Death Note game, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm not. I guess it doesn't work for you, but for me, who's I
No,
guess
it works. It
I,
just doesn't work. It doesn't have like the moment doesn't hit as hard to me. Like it's not as well constructed, I guess. Like I remember Lindell Taylor. The reason the Lindell Taylor so well, even though if you really think about the Lindell Taylor moment, in Death Note, it doesn't actually make sense for L to do it like that. But from a storytelling perspective, it's a masterstroke because
yep,
anybody who is reading Death Note or watching Death Note for the first time is probably thinking the same thing, which is where do you even go in a story like this, right? Like, how do you even make a move?
yep,
So they open up the story by having him make an extremely dramatic move where he figures out a lot of information all at once, right?
yep.
And
And you need
announces it.
that
It's a
drama.
very smart move from a storytelling perspective. Now, if you actually think about it, if L was really trying to be smart, he probably should have kept the fact that he figured all of this out hidden and not announced it.
Yep,
But I think from the perspective of a writer, doing it the way they did was absolutely the correct decision because you needed
yes,
it to be dramatic so that the reader was going to come back and go like, okay, now I get it, right? Like
yeah,
now I see how this is a story. Super Smartphone, I don't think ever really had a moment like that yet. I do think they're doing a passably good, I'll go further than that, like a pretty good job of approximating the Death Note style of storytelling, but I don't think they've hit the heights yet.
yeah. I agree with you. Like even though I'm not as big a fan of Death Note, it still had brilliant writing and characters and stakes and drama and art and all this stuff. And Super Smartphone, while pretty good, isn't that yet, which is a pity. And I think it will hit some parts, and you can actually kind of see when it's like starts to strut its stuff a little bit. Um, but it never quite gets there, like Death Note did with some of its
Now,
scenes.
with that said, it's still early.
Yep.
It can definitely, like, I could see it hitting that point, but the very fact that a premise this dumb is as good as it
Such a
is
hater.
already like kind of wild.
Yep.
And honestly, if it stays at this level, I would be fairly satisfied.
Yeah.
Like I would be okay with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
If this is as good as it got.
Yep.
Oh, or by the way, one of our readers asks, or how does using the phone work? Okay, you know how you type something into Google and it comes up with an answer? That's it. That's how it works.
Yep. It's Siri on overdrive.
Yeah, it is that stupid. Uh,
Like it's like is it complex? No, it's just a smartphone. Which I'll give them credit. A lot of things would try to make them super complicated, and we're about to see what happens when people figure out that a super smartphone exists who isn't a part of the super smartphone thing, because uh, more kind of let the dog out on it, and bad guy figured it out, because the bad guys are also smart, which I appreciate. Like,
yeah, they are, and you're absolutely right. That's something that I really do appreciate.
but we'll find
Uh,
out next week, or maybe, hopefully next week.
yeah. You're right though. Like they do a good job with it. Like the
Yeah.
villains are smart. The
Yep.
moves, our main boy pseudonym is also smart. You know,
Yep.
nobody in this is stupid. They're all making like logical moves,
Wait, so what do you think
right?
Moira is? I think he's dumb. I think he's not an intelligent man.
You mean this most recent guy? Well, yeah, but he's the lackey of the main villain, isn't
Sort of. He's just kind of dumb and being manipulated. The patsy of
he?
the main
Right.
villain.
Right. I don't think he's not one of the. I don't consider him a real villain.
Uh, anyway, what time is it? All right, we still got 15 minutes. I'm willing to talk about things, Anthony. Uh, so going through some of this other stuff in Shonen Jump, Super Smartphone is, one of the things I don't miss. There's a Kane Banshee, which is pretty good. It's one of the Rakugo shows that show up every now and then. Um, if that's what you like, if that's what you're into, more for you. I enjoy it just because it's like very low stakes but good character drama and very attractive character design. And I'm not just talking about the main girl. I'm talking like just in general. It's very good character design. A lot of the other stuff just kind of works for it. Uh, and like I said, especially the character drama. Uh, there's a few things that have kind of stuck around, even though I'm completely shocked. Like, I didn't realize this, but Undead Unluck has kept going.
Okay. Undead. I do not like undead.
So it had like one trick to it, which was the girl's incredibly unlucky and the guy just kind of wants to die. And then when I realized that was it, that was the show, that's all it is, I kind of just went, huh, and never read it again. So that's kind of what it is. I just kind of
So
just saw that it updated, and I'm shocked.
it's very typical Japan. You know, like the main character is always in various states of undress, and she's much younger. It's really weird because like they show that the guy, and for people listening, like the premise of Undead Unluck, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's been a while
It's
since
a
I read
it's
it, but
mostly a comedy.
yeah, it's mostly a comedy. But like, to be fair to the story, like our main boy generally does not make a move on the girl, but they also are constantly showing her like naked. She gets naked all the time.
I never got that far into it, so
Yeah, it's not good.
yeah,
Uh, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I don't appreciate the story.
yeah.
Um,
So I just wanted to comment on that. The same with Earthchild, which I also don't enjoy. Partially,
I was a little disappointed, honestly.
yep. And while it does have some really good drama to it, some really good chops, it doesn't really do anything with it. One Punch Man is absolutely incredible right now. They
So,
got
here's what I want to know: has Saitama gotten to the point where he cannot one punch someone?
yes, but also he's getting serious with Garo, and they're fighting on a moon of Jupiter, and Saitama uses the super serious move Table Flip and destroys an entire planet to flip Garo over himself to negate his teleporting abilities because he has been molested by a deity they're calling quote unquote God, and now he has an infinite power thing going on, and you can see the galaxy in his face. It's
So
so
that's what
cool.
I want to know, though, because I've always said, and it's been true this entire time, in One Punch Man, uh, the story ends when Saitama fights a villain where he actually needs to really try, like he might lose. Are we at that point yet?
No.
Okay,
So it's like this:
I'm just
Garo
wondering.
can punch him, and he's the toughest opponent yet faced, and Saitama has to go serious. But it doesn't feel like that, and it never is going to probably feel like that until the end. And
Right.
it's
It's going. That's how the story ends. It's how you have to end it.
yep.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And
I'm
like he,
curious if
hmm?
Garrow is ever going to turn good, which he seems like they keep hinting at it.
He kind of does. And so there's the web comic, and then there's the Eye Shield 2021 guy, uh, who's doing the art,
Yeah,
and there's
he's quite
differences
good.
in the plot. So the Eye Shield 2021 guy is the guy who put it on the moon of Jupiter, which wasn't a part of the original plot line. Just to
I
make
dig
that
it.
clear. That doesn't mean that it's yeah, I don't know. Like it's just a thing, but it's good. And like I
So
said, they're fighting outside Jupiter, and some of the promo images for the next chapter involve Saitama punching the great red spot of Jupiter and obliterating it. So I am hype.
one of my favorite fight scenes of all time, and entirely unironically, is Saitama and Moomin Rider versus the Sea King.
It is. It's
Uh,
amazing.
like legitimately, I watch that scene. It actually makes me tear up when I watch it.
Yep.
Uh, it's so well done, and like everything from, not even just the fight, like everything from when Moomin Rider shows up to the fight to the end of the episode is like seriously some of my favorite storytelling in anime ever. Like I will rewatch just that scene, and it makes me like, it actually makes me emotional. Like it's so good.
It
And
is.
in One Punch Man,
Yes.
like what the hell though?
Yes. That's because it's good. It's well written. He understands, and
He
it's
understands when Moomin Rider gets up off the ground and you have the little kid yelling, I believe in you," and then the music swells, and then Saitama catches him. Oh, it's all so good. But then when he shows up at the end to get what was it, ramen,
yep.
and it's Moomin Rider sitting next to him, and Moomin Rider reveals he's the one who sent him the thank you letter. I'm like, that's so good. It's such good writing.
Yes.
I don't even have anything to say about it. Like, it's perfect. 11 of 10.
Yep.
No notes.
Yep. And it's it's good. One Punch Man is always something to watch. One Piece is off its hiatus, where I hope Oda got an actual vacation for once. But that's up to him. I don't think he
My
got a
understanding of One Piece, and I am not that far into it because I keep getting distracted from reading it, uh, is that it is still quite good.
It is absolutely amazing. It has not declined in quality at all in all the years it's been there.
I mean,
Like
from
once,
what I understand from the people who know anything about One Piece, meaning the rights, it's actually gotten steadily better.
yes, yes, absolutely. Uh, yeah, no, One Piece is still good. One Piece will be good. Uh, it's still getting there, and it's ramping up. Luffy is emperor of the sea now, uh, and Shanks is doing his own thing, and he's like, oh, it's just good. It's just fantastic. MHA is entering its last season of manga, its last plot arc. One Piece
Probably.
is probably One Piece is probably in there as well. Just full disclosure for some of the stuff that's going on.
Is the real One Piece the friends we made along the way?
What? No.
Huh? Didn't Oda like have to come out and clarify? Like, no, it's an actual thing.
Yeah, like and Shanks is going for it, and that's the big reveal, and I'm hyped for it because it means that there might actually, instead of like Luffy like teaming up with Shanks, it might be like Shanks versus Luffy over One Piece, which is an absolute out of left field move, but it's probably still going to be one Luffy versus Blackbeard. Uh,
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
good.
it would be kind of sad if Luffy and Shanks had to fight. I hope, especially over One Piece. Like,
Well, there would be nothing better to fight over. It would be
yes
like
and no. So, what would I mean? I guess it wouldn't be. No, it would be fine because it's not like they would kill the other one. They would just
right,
fight the other one.
right. It's like one of them has to be dominant, even though Shanks is a father figure to Luffy. It doesn't mean that they can't fight and show struggle over it. They're still pirates. That's still the basis of this show.
I have a question for you. This is just a general, like, about One Piece question. Right
Hmm.
now, Nico Robin, in where I'm at in the story, which I think is in the middle of the Skypiea arc, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
which is
Where I'm
super
at in the
early, by the
story.
way. Like that's like chapter 200 something, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's in the
Out
200s.
of 1,100.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yes, you're right. But anyway, I'm like somewhere in the middle of the Skypiea arc currently. So here is my question.
Hmm.
Currently, Nico Robin feels very tacked on to the crew. Does this ever change?
Yes, in the next arc.
Okay, that's good. I was hoping so because I feel like
So she is
it
tacked
felt
on to
very
the crew.
random that she arrived at all, honestly. So I'm
Right.
like,
She explicitly just randomly showed up. That's she even kind of commented on herself, and part of it is her growing as a character, and to trust the crew and so on. And she has an amazing story arc and one of the most emotional scenes in the manga. It's
okay, that's
it's
good to hear.
like it's literally at the gates of hell, and she decides that she's a nakama of Luffy. It's fantastic. It is
The scene
absolutely.
itself where she joins is actually really funny. Because, like, she shows up and then everybody is like, no, you absolutely cannot join us. Get out of here. And Luffy's like, no, yeah, all right. And everybody's like, what, Luffy? Like, why are you doing this? She's like, I don't know, I like her. And that's just like the entire discussion.
Yep.
He's like, no, it's okay. Nico's cool. And that's like it. And then they're like, well, we still don't trust her. And Luffy's like, speak for yourself. I trust you.
Yeah, and sorry, I just game did something random. Yeah, no, it's great. Nika Robin makes her way. Um, the later half of the crew, like Nico Robin and beyond, kind of have it, except for Chopper. Kind of have it. No, wait, Chopper was before then. Never mind. Kind of have a different relationship with the crew than the original five or so, just
I
because.
would say the like what I would call like the really close knit section of the crew would be like Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Nami.
Yeah,
Even Chopper kinda like he comes in early, especially in One Piece terms, where early is 100 chapters in.
yeah,
Yeah,
150.
but yeah, he comes in relatively early, but that's after. Oh, and Usopp. I'm sorry, that's who I missed. Usopp.
Mm-hmm.
But after like they've already really developed a pretty close relationship with each other. You know,
Right.
like Usopp, Nami, Zoro, Luffy, Sanji are all pretty close with each other at that point. Uh, yeah, I really do enjoy One Piece. Like everybody tells me that One Piece gets much, much, much better as it goes on.
Yes.
Like that it goes from pretty good, fun story to absolute masterpiece.
Yep.
Sometime I think I forget the arc that they always put it at. I vaguely recall John saying like there was a certain arc where it's like the first time that the crew ever suffers any sort of real loss,
Which arc?
and like I don't remember the arc that what
Oh,
arc he was referring to,
yeah.
but there he
I
mentions that
know
there
actually.
was an arc. What
Yes.
was that?
I know which one. Never mind, but I'm not going to tell you because it's
It
great.
might have been whole cake or something. I don't know.
No.
Okay. But whatever. He says it's like the first time that they ever suffer any sort of real loss. And then I do know this is a spoiler, but it's talked about everywhere. So I didn't even look for it. It just like, came through osmosis. I know that Ace dies and that Ace is Luke's brother because, like, everybody, it's a very, very, very moment. it's probably the most famous moment of One Piece.
It hurt. I was there. I read the chapter. The second it was released, people were mass translating it as fast as possible, and I just went for it. Do I remember where I was or anything like that? No, no, no.
Oh,
That's
it's
not
a
how I
manga.
work. Right. It's but but it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, this is it sticks with you if you're
No,
part of
it's a
the.
manga. But when Gyro died, now that, ooh man, that I
Sure.
remember.
I felt more for Caesar personally, and but that's just me.
Really interesting.
Like it was like it's obvious this is coming from a mile away. You know what? I still teared up a little bit. Just felt it, just a little twinge in my heart, in my cold dead heart, my cold dead reptilian heart.
You know, I
Yeah,
gotta say, like, as time has gone on, I've had more time to, like, really dig through, like, the various, trying to think of how to put it, like, the various JoJo parts and, like, actually think through it. I think that the popular consensus is correct, and part 7 is the best. Like, that's not to say it's my favorite. I don't think it is. I still have a place in my heart for part 6, because I love the ending of part 6. More than anything, more than any other part. But part 7 is so good.
it is.
It's so good. The artwork is the best it's ever been in JoJo. Uh, I do think that the artwork of JoJo is honestly something incredible. That like, when when Araki started out, if you read his manga in the practice, he was known as like, oh, his writing is good, but his artwork's not great. And he ends up becoming the first manga author to be displayed, or the manga artist to be displayed in the Louvre, which is really a stunning transformation.
I'm resisting buying the $40 like JoJo in the Louvre book. I want it
You
though.
can't get it on sale anywhere. Check eBay.
No, no.
Mm,
I want to support my local businesses.
interesting. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Anything else to end it with today, Ben?
yeah, I'm nearly done. Hold on. Let's see here. Another episode of the Shokugeki no Shoujo guy doing Sanji story, which is fantastic. Just for this week. Doron is pretty good. I do recommend it. It's basically Demon Slayer, except a little bit more generic, I guess. Like, it's just pleasant. I enjoy my time with it. Aliens Area has the potential to be very interesting, but we'll see whether it's interesting. You know what I mean? Like, all the
Yep.
pieces are there, and it hasn't made a misstep yet, but it hasn't been exceptional. But do you know what's my low key favorite new series right now?
No, I don't.
That's a good answer. I'd be surprised. It's Rory Dragon.
Rory Dragon, really?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's got this like kind of light, kind of how do I want to put it? Like it's just kind of like low stakes, as the girl like slowly develops her dragon powers. Uh, there's even like it's like, oh, you breathe fire for the first time, and then she vomits blood and collapses, and then she's like in the hospital for a week. It's like, huh, all right, I dig it. You know what? This is acceptable. I wasn't expecting that they'd actually do it like this, but they did do it like this, so I'm liking it. The artwork's pretty good. I think the characters are pretty all right, uh, and I think that there's not much where it can go. But the how do I want to put it? Like even though there's no like villain or much stakes to the plot, I think it's pretty pleasurable just to sit and read it for a little bit. More just to see how the characters interact with each other, and the occasional development of new powers. Because right now she's about to, I guess, breathe lightning or something, which I think is pretty cool.
Interesting. I'll have to take a look at that.
Yep, but yeah, no, that's what's going on with this stuff. Uh, yeah, no, I don't have anything else really going on. That's the Shonen Jump anime thing. So just full disclosure for everyone out there, this has been a pretty miserable couple of weeks for us. I've had to find a new employment. I found a job. Anthony has his own employment struggles that he has to go through. Not that we're going to talk about them because he keeps them private.
You're just telling people this over the air?
Yeah, because it'll lead to this. We promised that we would do the Council of Trent stream uh, last
Yes.
week, and we didn't even stream last week. We have.
Well, you interviewed my show. That's not totally true.
Oh, I did interview. Well, yeah, but that was beforehand. It wasn't a proper stream in the same way for it. And so, our apologies for that. We will be working on something else.
Yeah, I'm going to pause and explain that because that's actually you make a good point. It's worthy of explanation. So here's the thing: I have not had time to prepare properly for this, and I'm actually quite excited about the Council of Trent stream. I bought a book on it that I really finished reading before, and I want to do proper justice to it. The first Reformation stream we did, I am satisfied with. I think I did a good job. I had notes and everything. I think both Ben and I were satisfied with what we got. The second Reformation stream, I did not have the time to put full effort into, and I was okay with that because I think that the first stream was more important.
Yeah.
Like, the second stream was historical context, and while that is very important, the main things that I would take away from it are largely said in the first stream. Now,
Yeah.
the Council of Trent, I would say, is probably not as important as the first stream, but is arguably the most interesting of the, which is one of the reasons I really want to do justice, because the Council of Trent and the aftermath of it are fascinating and wide-ranging, and it's also the basis of a lot of the conflict between modern Protestantism and modern Catholicism, even more so than the original Reformation itself, because the Council of Trent is when a lot of the decisions were made. Can we or can we not compromise? And on what points is compromise possible? And the Council of Trent is where a lot of times an answer was definitively given.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that sense, it is very important to talk about. I want to do it justice, and I will.
Yeah.
But in order to do it justice, at the moment, I am very, very busy. I am not going to say with what, except to vaguely gesture at work and say work is making me busy.
Yep.
So, once that calms down slightly, and I could actually give attention, read the full book on the subject that I have on it, and really write out, like, in detail, here is what I think, here is why I think it, here is what it means, then we could do the stream. But we're going to do a good job on it. Like, I can promise you that. Both Ben and I will make sure that we do a good job on it.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, it's affected a lot of things. And fortunately, I have a job where I will no longer be sitting at my computer for 13 hours a day, including non-work time. So I will probably have much more inspiration for the various projects. Also, there's a heat wave, as you probably know, which means that I'm not going to turn off my air conditioner on threat of death. But I will have to record Jack's episode, which I have to do this week. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining. I want to thank you to Septius7, Vanessa Vasquez, Havocbringer, Aurum. Thank you for listening in. Hope you join us next week.
Septius7.
Was that?
Septius7 as well.
Yeah, I said Septius, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it then. Keep going.
Yeah, that's fine. Next week, we will see what we have. We will be doing light stuff until Anthony is capable of doing the Council of Trent stream. The reason why it's a bit more important for Anthony than for myself, there were not Protestants who really took a part of that. It was sort of Catholic outward, but I still have to research the reaction to it. I also have to, I guess, stop being
your
a snake.
Commentary on what's being said and what you think of it and stuff like that.
Yep. And you know what? That takes a bite out of my snake handling time, which is very important. I am now a deep woods Pentecostal, as I have always
So
been.
yeah, we just had this discussion too.
Yeah.
So I'll say that there are two main problems as well with a Council of Trent stream specifically. Number one is that this happened in the Renaissance, end of Middle Ages, beginning of Renaissance, meaning that a lot of the terminology is very different from the way that we use it today.
Yeah.
And it is very, very, very important that we are using the terminology in the way that they use it. This makes critical differences in like what they're saying about the theology, for example.
Yes.
So that's the first problem. The second problem is simply that even if you understand what they're talking about, it isn't simple. Like, there is no way to sugarcoat this. Some of these theological issues do get nuance, which is not to say that they aren't important. They are very important. But you're digging into stuff that the average person is generally not going to think about.
Yep.
And we are going to be thinking about it, meaning we need to put effort into understanding it.
Yep.
Now, I am confident in my own ability to do that, but I need time to be able to do
Right.
it properly.
And it's hard for me to do it because the Protestant reaction to the Council of Trent is not necessarily anything that can be like easily quantified. Some places completely ignore it, or it's under the Catholic, whatever. Ah, well, it's I guess what we'll do is we'll end it here. Thank you for joining us. That's our little explanation. We will in the future not have this problem until we do have this problem again, which Lord willing, we'll never actually have to cross that Rubicon. Have a good night, everyone.